And hello, you lovelies. Let's talk about Venom: The Last Dance with full spoilers. I posted a non-spoiler review on Wednesday, but trickily enough, a lot of the things that didn't quite work for me in this film are full-blown spoilers. So this is a movie I liked but didn't love, and a lot of those things are going to be discussed in this review. Also, if you're new to this page, I do comic book news and comic book reviews of the actual comics themselves, as well as movie news, movie reviews, and some TV. So hit that subscription bell if you're into comics or movies or all of the above. And for me, the most important thing about art is sharing your experience of it. I love what art means to you and to me in that conversation. So let me know in the comments below what your experience of this film or any film. Let's talk about movies and stuff in the comments below. And while you're hitting buttons, hit that like, hit buttons, do it. Okay, let's talk about it. Venom: The Last Dance. Full spoilers. If you haven't seen the film, get out of here. We're going to dive into all of it and some Easter eggs, some comic references, all that jazz in this video. I hope you're still here having seen Venom: The Last Dance, because my biggest issue with Venom: The Last Dance isn't necessarily even in the film itself. It's in the conversation around it. I really don't love that every Venom film has had the conversation of there's a post-credit scene with Tom, or oh my god, Andrew Garfield's in it, or all these things. Because at this point, I'm not sure what the legal is to get Spider-Man in the Spider-Man universe of Marvel characters films. I'm curious at this point if the new Marvel deal is that Spider-Man can appear in the MCU and in his Spider-Man films with these characters, but I don't know. Maybe there's a reason there is no Spider-Man in any of the Venom, Morbius, Madam Web, but like those films, maybe not. Like we even heard as recently as the Madam Web movie, which I can't believe was this year, that there was a scene they shot, but then they realized continuity and they realized the line and timing didn't work. That is a stretch, but so might be true that Spider-Man was never in it and that they aren't allowed. I don't know what the rules are, but it does seem really interesting that now for 3 films we don't have a Spider-Man. So maybe we do get Spider-Man in a King in Black film. Maybe we do get Venom in a scene with KNULL in Spider-Man 4. I don't know what it means, but I don't blame the movie for that. And I think it's really hard, and the reason I want to open the review with this is every time we hear Spider-Man's in one of these movies, it's because of a rumor, not from anything the studio did, and I feel like it really handicaps these films because, in my opinion, what I want out of these Venom movies is yes, I would love to see Venom fight Spider-Man. Of course I would. I really thought we were getting that with No Way Home and that scene with the TV, and I really hated that, whatever reason, it didn't happen, and the movie had to play catch-up, and that really, really threw off the opening of the film for me. This movie opened at like a 2.5 for me. It rose up to a 3. I think it absolutely gets stronger as it goes along, but the movie lands at like a C+, B- for me, and that's fine. It's C is average, like C is you passed, it's fine. C+ is I got a lot of enjoyment out of it. B- is rewatchability and certain things that are really memorable. Like there are reasons this film absolutely works, but it opened with as many endings as Return of the King had. It had to really play a lot of catch up because of how muddled all the continuity is. And that's not this movie's fault, but it's a real mess when you've got that combined with all the rumors, combined with what everyone assumes. And yeah, I really have wanted to see the white spider, spread across his chest. And I am bummed in my way to not have had that in the whole trilogy. But I wish I could have just enjoyed these as Lethal Protector. And that's what I tried to do. Like, for me, once my brain goes, stop looking for all this, stop trying to connect, I want a 2-hour movie to be a 2-hour movie, personally. That's what I want. And I got that. I got the joy of a 2-hour experience. It's really hard in a shared universe where everyone's looking for connection to things, where everyone's looking at what's next. And this movie had to start with a what's next. It had to go into a what just happened, and then it got to be its own movie. So by the time we're 15 minutes in, we've had, issues 3 and 4 of the King in Black shown on screen. We've had No Way Home tied in, and then we get to go on our, Venom's on the run because Eddie's on the run, and so is, the symbiote. Like, I love the idea of a movie where Eddie's on the run and the symbiote's on the run, and that bonds them together, and I got that, but it took a while to get into that, and that really threw off the pacing of the film for me. That really made it hard to invest in the new characters when I just wanted to go back to Eddie. I really love the relationship between Eddie and Venom. That's what I love about these films, is how weird Venom is. And Venom's always been weird. Like, if you read the Michelini, Todd McFarlane comics, he is singing, he's talking to himself, he's laughing at his own jokes, he's got a lot of dad jokes. He's also terrifying, like threatening Mary Jane and lurking in the shadows and all that stuff, but he's only terrifying at people he considers his enemy. When Venom's just on his own time having a bop, he's a weird dude. And I feel like these films capture that so much better than they get credit for, and they're so much more fun than they get credit for. So what makes this like that B- for me is the joy and the fun. And that's what was so hard to talk about in the non-spoiler is everything that works is a non-spoiler. So it seemed like I gave this film like an A. And I don't mind people thinking I love everything. I don't care. I want to enjoy art. I think it's weird to seek out like I got a 2 better hour experience than someone that just wanted to hate it did. Like I got to have more joy and entertainment. I don't get, any benefit from suffering through something. So I always want to enjoy something. So I tend to. But it is hard when every one of the flaws is certain acting choices that are spoilers, certain things that are pulling away from the original subject matter, and all of that is wrapped in where is Spider-Man? What is happening? Why aren't they here? So other issues I had while we're talking, full spoilers, I really found that the science subplot didn't really get its time to shine in any way that I was invested in until the other symbiotes came to play in the third act. And I got the math of how you had to set all that up. But it was really interesting. Like Kelly Marcel, the co-writer with Tom Hardy and director of this film, felt like, and it's her first time directing, and my hat is off to her. I cannot imagine having never directed a music video, a commercial or something, making a $150, $200 million film, the third in a trilogy, dealing with Marvel characters. That's crazy. Like, truly, my hat is off. No hat. That said, I found the scenes with Eddie to be so strong, likely because Tom Hardy has lived in this role for 7 years and knows this role so well, that anytime it wasn't him, the acting felt very stilted and the dialogue felt like they were having to do some of those crazy dialogue choices that don't work in most movies. Those crazy, like, I gotta say this. And that really, for me, suffered with Juno Temple, especially. And I really feel like she is such a talented actress, whether it's, obviously Ted Lasso, she's a force, but even smaller roles like in Dark Knight Rises, she's always so talented. I think there might have been just a disconnect with the dialogue to her and a first-time director, because there were even moments where Chiwetel Ejiofor felt like he was removed from it, and Chiwetel Ejiofor is like a force of nature. So I do think the B plot of the science stuff, whether it was the casting, the directing, the style choices, that was hard. But by the time we got to the second act, I really loved the stuff with Toxin. And I really loved that Toxin felt like a threat and felt so mysterious and felt so wise. And that was because of not only his performance, but Juno Temple's as well. Like that mirroring Juno Temple gave him that energy was Juno Temple. So the first act, that was rough, got better in the second act, really liked it in the third. But again, this first act, real struggle for me, especially in the B and C plot. The C plot, I consider the road trip plot with Risa Fons and his family. And this was tricky because not only did we have, Baron Mordo, Chiwetel Ejiofor as, the military element. Rex, who was a big deal in the comics, by the way. Another Easter egg is that Rex Strickland, is one of the hosts briefly of Venom and dies, and it ties into the Codex element. So at the end, I'll do a quick little, Easter egg grab bag. But one of them was Rex Strickland, who is important to the Venom comics, but not in the way he's in the movie. He's just like a high-ranking military guy in the movie. In the comic books, he dies. He's a Codex core, and we'll talk about more at the end. But C plot. Having Mordo and then also having the lizard is really distracting. And I think it was meant to be cheeky fun, but instead it had people going like, is that kid young Peter Parker? Did they kidnap Peter Parker? Like that was a legit rumor a year ago. And, Risa Fons is in the Andrew Garfield movies as the lizard. And so him being this character is like very confusing if you don't know the multiverse concept. And I had no problem with it once my brain went, oh, right, I'm not looking for anything else. But we've been so programmed to look and look and look. The one thing I thought was cheeky was there was a lizard man thing on the side of his crazy alien van, and that felt very knowing. But it is hard when you cast actors that are mirroring things. And I don't know if it was cheeky. I don't know if they just wanted these people to play these roles. But the C plot didn't really start to get heartwarming and charming until like the singing was a moment, and then later on when they all join back together. But there's plenty of parts that feel like they're just doing a lot of like going through the motions cliches, and that's odd for a shorter film. This film's like an hour and 40 minutes, so to have moments that feel like they're a little drawn out in a movie so short, the C plot I definitely think suffered from a lot of the things the B plot did, where it's like if Tom Hardy's not on screen, I'm not as invested in these supporting characters as I want to be, that by the time we get to the end we care as much as we should. And then a big flaw for me was KNULL is in it more than I expected. To be honest, I really thought Knull was just going to sit in that chair, head down, and have that opening thing. And that opening thing was such a rushed, oh my God, what's happening? I would have loved if that was interspersed throughout the film every time they mention, Clintar, every time they mention xenophages or whatever. It would have been more interesting than just jumble at the front and then splice throughout and then at the end. It just, the pacing-wise didn't work. But what really bothered me with Knull is the voice is cool and the pose is cool, but the CGI... I don't know why they didn't cast someone, like anyone. You can change the look later, like they did with Thanos. My boy Damien Poitier was Thanos. Could have been Thanos. And then, it became Josh Brolin, but they changed the look of him too. I think it would have been better to have, a tall, thin man sitting in a chair. The CGI felt... Maybe it's because there was so much CGI around him and it was clearly just like not a real tangible set. It was just CGI. I don't know, but for whatever it was so hard to feel like that was an impending threat, and Knull didn't feel as cool as he was and as cool as the dialogue can be and as cool as Donny Cates and Ryan Stegman's comic is, because there was no tangibleness to him. He looked like a CGI character. It looked like, at times, video game cutscenes, and that's a bummer. And then to hide his face throughout and then save that look-up reveal for the last moment and have that be as CGI as it was, I think that did throw off the film for me. And again, this is with all the caveats of this movie is supposed to be fun. I don't want to take it seriously. To me, this does capture the feeling of Lethal Protector, of Venom the Hunger, of separation anxiety, like those very dark but very weird and fun comics. This does capture that. But it can be fun and silly and still have weight. And that was what I think kind of went away with Knull, is since he wasn't there, and I felt that it did kind of go away. So yeah, overall, film like a C+, B-. Overall, anytime Eddie Brock is on screen, I'm happy. I enjoyed the Vegas stuff. I personally, some of my favorite stuff is the walk across the desert. I personally really love the sequence with the jury, the 6 military guys hunting Venom down, and the Venom horse and the Venom fish and the Venom frog scene. That is so weird and 90s comic to me. I love that a lot of this felt like Hank Azaria, that Venom from the animated series. I love that Tom Hardy has fully embraced, we are Venom. Like that, the scene of him chomping heads. And by the way, this movie pushed the R rating as far as I think it could go. There's blood in this film, which usually just makes it immediately R. That blood in the water was shooting that other military guy, chomping off heads on camera. Like, it pushed an R rating pretty hard, which made me happy, because Venom, I would have loved to have seen a Venom with Tom Hardy R rated at some point, but these make $1 billion. That's not going to happen. But I did think it was a good evolution of first film Venom is fighting to become one. Second film, that balance of how do we stay one. And the third film, We Are Venom, felt like it had some weight. He never said We Are Venom in the second film. It felt like a comeback when he said We Are Venom here. And I loved how it was done. That scene was so funny, of them trying to line back up again to have that symbiosis. I really loved seeing Ryan Stegman's spiral in the Knull iconography. Let's talk Easter eggs. Speaking of that. So overall, to wrap up then Easter eggs, overall, had a good time with it. Overall, a lot of fun. This video feels very negative because my non-spoiler felt hyper positive, because all my negatives are spoiler based. But overall, I really think it's fun, and I really just wanted to go to the movies, see a character I've loved since I was like 5 on screen, having a good time with an actor that is getting to embody something for him and for his kids. He clearly loves this role so much. He clearly is so dedicated to this character, and it's a joy to see him get to unleash that silliness, because Tom Hardy, to me, is such a intense looking guy with this hard shell, and he's jacked and he's got this rugged intensity, and Venom is this terrifying long-toothed symbiote, viscous black ooze dripping spit. Like, they're both scary exteriors, but inside they're silly gooses, and there's no one better to play the silly goose of the scary exterior than Tom Hardy, because that's the vibe, man. So that joy coming out of him makes me so happy. Kelly Marcel getting to debut with this big of a film is incredible. Getting to see actors get to just play and have fun always makes me happy. And getting to see characters I love. I lived in the time where it was like, if you're lucky, you get one comic movie a year. Could not believe when X-Men came out. Could not believe when Spider-Man came out. It blew my young preteen mind these could exist. Now we're getting them every few months. So I'm always happy, to at least have that bar. And the flaws that I mentioned at the top notwithstanding, those flaws are why it's not a 4-star film. It's more like a 3. But overall, B-, C+, what a time. Let's talk Easter eggs. Not a ton. The symbiotes at the end, which I didn't love that they didn't bring in Shriek and you know, Fear and Agony in their normal state. They kind of just blended them. Like the yellow symbiote should be on a woman, and she's one of the most iconic female symbiotes. She's one of the most iconic symbiotes, like from the separation anxiety era, from the Life Foundation. Instead, I got on this chunky guy, and he was like this big round guy. Those kind of things, they did bother me. But if you want to check out, that's an Easter egg for the comics from, it's called Separation Anxiety. It is a great comic and video game on the Sega Genesis. It is from the Life Foundation era of the Venom stuff, so that was a fun little nod. I wish it had been more direct. It looked like for a moment we did get anti-Venom, and there are anti-Venom toys tied to this film, but it looked like they just used him as an all-white symbiote, so that is kind of an Easter egg. The Rex Strickland Easter egg is from the, again, Donny Cates run, where he is a origin of the Codex. He's one of the original people that wielded Venom, military guy, gets killed, his Codex lives on. That was cool to see his name get used there. There was also certain moments in the chase sequence that looked to me straight out of the comic. There's not a ton of Easter eggs. It's so funny, like, the spiral was probably the biggest Easter egg for me. The Codex with Ryan Stegman art made me go like, oh, so like that was a Easter egg if you want to count that from the comic books. Not a ton of Easter eggs in this movie because it was doing its own thing, and I'm totally okay with that. If you want to think about Easter eggs as far as the MCU, the black goo of our universe, the MCU ours, like 6, in my opinion, 199999, because 616 is the comic. So the MCU, not Sony, like the Iron Man Avengers universe, still has the black goo, because the one we saw leap in this is in the Sony universe, and that's the one that Rex Strickland catches. So there is still possibility for Venom in the Tom Holland MCU, and that could tie into Secret Wars in an interesting way. So MCU-wise, that's about the only Easter egg is that little sequence, and obviously the two, the Sony and the Marvel Ted Lasso guy, Cristiano. But yeah, overall, not a ton of Easter eggs that come to mind. Interesting film, interesting time. I had a lot of fun with it. This review feels more negative, but I had to balance my non-spoilers. So if you want my more joyous take, literally sitting in a park, all the positives were non-spoilers. That's in that video. A lot of the negatives were in this video. But overall, really glad it exists. Really glad Venom got his last dance, literally with Mrs. Chow. That sequence I thought was funny. Out of nowhere. It came out of nowhere. It was very much like suspend disbelief that she's just at the end of the thing. But that happens in Vegas. I've been to Vegas, ran into people. It happens. But yeah, weird, good time. Enjoyed the little James Bond moment with Tom Hardy, who never got to play Bond. What a weird joy Venom: The Last Dance was. I hope you had fun with it too, because I really did. I think all week people have been like, you love everything, and I was looking for negatives. But even thinking about it now, I had so much fun with it, and it was a really good time. And I'd love to see a King in Black movie. I would love to see this get to become something that does incorporate Spider-Man. But to me, Venom is, yes, absolutely essential to bring into Spider-Man and vice versa. But they showed that we had a whole trilogy because of how good this character is. Just like in the comics, there are so many Venom comics Spider-Man's not in, and they're a blast. Check out my Venom video for some Venom comics without Spider-Man. It was last week, this exact day last week. Also check out my non-spoiler if you want the more joyous take. And check out later today, I'm doing a live stream, literally today. Today's a very busy day, covering This Week in Comics, all the books that I loved from last week, as well as previewing this week's books and giving you a full New York Comic Con news rundown. And then later on, basically I'm doing like 7 videos next week. So today, live stream, and then you can look out for a lot of stuff tomorrow. And then on Sunday, Penguin episode 6. All right, much love. Hit that subscription bell. Leave a comment below. Did you consider this like a C+, B-? For me, 3 out of 5. Let me know where it ranks for you, out of 5 or 10 or however you rank. Let's talk about it in the comments. I appreciate you, and I appreciate Tom Hardy for shepherding this character through insanity for 7 years, because they got that Hunter S. Thompson and Gonzo walkabout journey through the desert I wanted, and that was a weird good time, and I had a joy with it. All right, much love, y'all. I'll see you soon. Bye.